In the past, doing well has been a major trigger for me, and I never really understood why. I can't say that it's something I entirely can wrap my head around now, even though I've had it explained to me on a professional level by the clinical director of the recovery program I was a part of, the rehab that I attended for over 5 months. But my lead therapist, Billy Grande, said that as a kid, because I had an inconsistent childhood, because things were chaotic and unpredictable, unreliable, and in many ways, as my brain perceived it as a developing child, unsafe, I developed a taste for chaos. I developed a taste for being in a fight or flight state. So because I didn't trust consistency that I never had as a kid, as an adult, I began to recreate inconsistency much like I experienced as a child being raised by active addicts and alcoholics. This kind of all blew my mind. But over time, and over a lot of therapy, and being in treatment for as long as I was, I started to believe it, and I started to see my story and other people's stories that attended treatment with me. I started to read about myself and the clinical research and the data, the tangible evidence of this sort of inconsistent childhood, how it manifests in adulthood, how addictions come in to protect and save us when we're kids, but then they no longer serve us when we become adults, and it's time to handle uncertainty, it's time to handle fear, it's time to process feelings and emotions, it's time to be our own best self, our own parent, if you will. I learned about it, and it struck a chord with me. And I want to talk a little bit about how I'm doing right now in my sobriety, the red flags that I've historically had about feeling good and that being a problem, and just how things are going in general with recovery and my daily affirmation and my daily intention to no longer be an active person in his addiction. So welcome to the video. This is going to be long-winded. My intention is for this to be unedited, and I'm just going to give you guys a life update specifically surrounding sobriety, my addiction, where I'm at, what I'm thinking, what's been going well, what's been going less well, what I'm working on, so on and so forth. I really appreciate you guys being here. I think the first thing I want to do is acknowledge the person who may or may not be watching who's struggling right now. So if you are currently battling addiction, or let's just say addictive behavior, if drinking or drugging or gambling or sex or anything like that is out of control for you and causing you pain and discomfort and terrorizing your life, just know that I understand and I empathize with you greatly. I have a massive history of alcohol abuse, not having any emotional sobriety, behaving very impulsively, very recklessly, poor self-esteem, binge drinking, binge thinking, relapse, mental health problems. So I just have a lot of empathy for people that maybe haven't found steady ground yet like I have today. And I want you to know that feeling sad and thinking you're hopeless doesn't mean you'll always be. I think it's great that you're here, and I hope you keep trying to figure out what works for you and what's going to get you on a more stable path. I just want to show some love to he or she or anyone in the middle who's watching who's not doing well. It's not fun, and you might be miserable right now, and I know misery, and it's not a good place to be, so I'm really grateful that I'm not in that space right now. And if you're doing well, a big shout out to you also. I think that's amazing. I think that's not to be taken lightly. I think you deserve that. I think I deserve it, and I hope you're finding ways to enjoy your life and enjoy being free of the chaos that was addiction for me and perhaps for you. Okay, so where do I begin? I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing any war story recap of my drinking before, but just know that when I checked into my detox facility, October 5th of 2020, I was very physically, mentally, emotionally handicapped and addicted to alcohol. I couldn't go a day or so without drinking. I had shakes and withdrawals if I tried not to drink. Nothing too aggressive, just minor, but they were there. My first few days of getting sober just consisted of massive anxiety, trying not to panic, inability to sleep, sweating like crazy, confusion, disorientation, really morose and sad thoughts, I remember it being like 60 degrees in my room because we had our own thermostat that we could control. And I had mine set to like 60 and I was still soaked in sweat with nothing but a sheet. So I wasn't in a good place. I drank every day, anywhere between 14 and 18 beers in an hour or two time frame, typically maybe 3, 6 nights a week in the evening. I was miserable, and you can check back my catalog if you're curious to see what I was like, because I was still posting on this channel. And I went through a 5-month program, and it was a very, very successful program, a Treehouse Recovery, link in the description. If you're local and or in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere in the West Coast, I think you should consider Treehouse if you need higher level of care like I did. But I want to talk to you guys about how I'm doing now. I got out of treatment, and what has life been like for me since that happened? It's been pretty great. It really has been pretty great. My ability to regulate my emotions, my ability to negotiate life and individuals in my life and situations and circumstances and pressures and obligations and wants and needs, it's just so much better now than it ever was before. I'm constantly reality testing my thoughts. I'm constantly assessing situations that historically I might have thought I had to be a part of and I no longer think I do, like toxic relationships or unhealthy environments, people, places, things. Removing myself from unhealthy situations has become a very normal part of my being as a recovering alcoholic, recovering problem drinker. And it's brought me to this state lately, which I suppose is what I really wanted to talk about, where things are just stable. I'm quite content essentially all the time. And I've removed myself from all of the major things that I think would be unnecessary, that I think could be stressful, and I'm following my game plan really, really well. So for example, one of the things I have to do right now, well, I choose to do, but that was strongly encouraged of me from treatment, is to avoid all people who are drinking actively. And I kind of have expounded upon that suggestion to avoid all people who are drinking, which I have, to all people that are behaving like alcoholics. And if you're a drinker or you know drinkers, you kind of know that if someone is an addict or an alcoholic, whether they're drinking or not, there's a certain set of characteristics that sometimes are pretty recognizable. Being perhaps more dramatic, hypersensitive, more self-involved, more self-absorbed, less healthy. I'm avoiding people like that too, if I recognize those sort of things and those sort of behaviors in them. And it's pretty easy because I just have to think of myself in my addiction, and I can kind of see where I don't think that they have the same goals that I do, for example, the same wants, the same style of coping with life. And I just try to be careful to not surround myself with those sort of people. So one of the things that's been really consistent for me in my sobriety is just choosing to spend time with healthy people exclusively, and not to condemn or belittle anyone who just wants different things than I do, or thinks differently, or handles life differently. But just to be very real with myself about what I want. I really believe that you are the sum total of the people you spend the most time with. When I was unhealthy, when I was sick, when I was drinking all the time and thinking as a drinker all the time, healthy people with values and their moral compass, and people that lived in a way that I thought was fairly virtuous and honest and pure, really bothered me and really made me uncomfortable. And now those are the people that I very much seek out and choose to spend my time with. So being around really healthy and consistent people has been one of the biggest things about this round of sobriety that just seems to be going really well. It seems to be helping me stay grounded in what I want and not getting confused about a lifestyle or a way of behaving that doesn't serve me, that I quite frankly am disgusted by when I think about where it took me. So that's been going really well. I don't hang out with drinkers, ever. The only people I do hang out with occasionally that do have a fair bit of alcohol and drugs in their life are people I I choose to only spend a little bit of time with in like the mornings. We might go out to breakfast or something like that. And I want to be as vague about this as I possibly can out of respect for those people, because I do want them in my life, but just with different boundaries. And so because I want them in my life, I choose to engage with them in very, very controlled settings. And that's going pretty well too. And then very plainly saying that I won't hang out with them outside of those controlled settings and letting the chips fall where they may in terms of how they receive that sort of thing. I wish I could be more specific, but some of those people might be watching, and I don't want them to think I'm speaking ill of them. I just don't. Hopefully they're not watching, because it's certainly not a video for them per se, but let's just say that the people in my life from my old life who I still want to remain in some type of contact with, I have really good boundaries. And otherwise, I'm like exclusively with sober people. Sober people who don't give two shits about alcohol, and or recovering people who were addicts and alcoholics like me, who are now in recovery and live a lifestyle of recovery. Going back to what I first said, one of the biggest triggers for me historically has been stability. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I now know why. My inconsistent, unstable childhood lent itself very well for recreating and reenacting inconsistent behavior and circumstance and situation, and seeking out drama and chaos as an adult. So I've started to get used to the calm. I've started to get used to the quiet. I've started to get used to being around people and places and things that are consistent, are dependable, are reliable, are healthy, are sober, are not dramatic, are thoughtful, are conscious folks, and my home is safe, and my wife is safe, and my friends are safe, and my recovery team is safe, and that's becoming my new norm. So now when I see unhealthy behavior and I see chaos, it's not for me, and I know where it comes from, and I'm very thoughtful and mindful of my past. So while historically being as stable as I've been now has been a trigger to relapse, now I think it's a tremendous motivation and encouragement and reminder to stay sober, to stay where I am, to be thoughtful, to know what's going on, why it's going on, and what I want to do differently about it. It's a really, really big deal to me. I currently have, let's see here. I don't check this terribly often. Oop, that signed me out. Okay, let's see what this one says. So I am currently 257 days sober, which is just insane to me. 6,157 hours, but who's counting? And I just think that is incredible. I think that's absolutely incredible. I've been in had like an attitude of gratitude, just overwhelming my psyche and my senses for quite some time now. And it's just a gift, man. It's just an absolute gift. I stay very connected with Treehouse. I work for them now, so I make addiction content for them, which is wonderful. I've had the opportunity to do some social things with some of the leadership there, which has just been so encouraging for me and made me feel so good. I'm still attending Treehouse sober groups online on Sundays, reconnecting with different graduates of the program, hearing about their life, listening to how they work through their thoughts and their stresses and their lives as sober people, which is just always reaffirming for me. And the cool thing about being connected to people in recovery is that if people in recovery who you're connected to are doing well, it's very reassuring, right? But if they're not doing well, it's reassuring in a different kind of way. It gives you like that fresh perspective. It gives you that fresh experience of maybe some old thinking that you once had, or you see someone maybe going down a dangerous path and you can identify it, and it can reassure you and bolster your resolve. That's been my experience. Let's talk about a couple things that have been hard for me. As far as staying sober, well, as far as my sobriety goes and navigating life on life's terms and being present all the time. I've had two of my very close brothers from treatment relapse since I've been sober. One very recently and the other one a month or two ago. And while I can admit that it has helped me want to stay sober more, and I have been able to use it as a reminder of how insidious and dangerous addiction is, it's also been a source of tremendous sadness, and I've had to use a lot of tools to not fall into this space where I want to rescue, and to not go into some codependent place where if they're not doing well, I can't be doing well, because I love these men, and knowing that they're out there and knowing that they're struggling, it's been really sad for me. I've felt a lot of sadness about it because I'd hoped and wanted us to stay sober together, right, and grow in recovery, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't their time right now. And I constantly think about them, and I try not to obsess about it. But I don't want to end up like that, you know? And I have a history of relapse, so it hits me right here to see brothers I care about struggle. But it's part of this, and I'm learning to feel those feelings and not minimize them or trivialize them, but also not take on that emotion and live it. I'm just using it the best I can and talking about it as motivation to stay sober myself. But that part of addiction sucks. And I hate that part of all this. Someone I consistently knew in sobriety from before, an older woman who I wouldn't say we were friends, but we were friendly acquaintances who we saw each other at meetings. She relapsed after many years of sobriety recently, and she got a DUI and she committed suicide. And I just found out about that yesterday. And that was really sad, and that brought me to my tears. So that part of recovery is hard. Is that, you know, this is a disease, and I'm trying to stay like in the most joyous space I can and just be so thankful and grateful and consistent and content as I can. But there are reminders, a lot of reminders of how dangerous this whole thing is and how fragile it can be if I'm not doing the next right thing. So I think it's just learning to feel my feelings and not minimize those sort of things has been difficult at times, and it's fairly new compared to the past. Yeah. What else has been kind of hard? I think sometimes I worry that I'm not doing enough for my recovery, and luckily I kind of use that as motivation just to explore and gently observe my thoughts and see what I want. I currently am doing one podcast a week, maybe two. I really love this podcast called The Recovery Elevator. It's really, really wonderful. There's this woman named Odette Kressler, I think is her name, who runs it now. And she gives like a really awesome intro to every episode, just talking about some facet of recovery. So I really like that. Then there's an interview and then like an outro. It's been a big part of my self-care is to listen to Recovery Elevator. I do my treehouse meetings every Sunday, and that's been really good. I meet with my sponsor fairly often, every couple weeks in 12-step, but I haven't really found a 12-step meeting I really like. So I'm trying to settle into one of those, and I like the idea of that being my routine. I'm doing good at 10th stepping, which is just staying in touch with my thoughts and my feelings. So every night I do a 10th step. It kind of goes like this. Not kind of, it very specifically goes like this. Ooh, there's a bug on the lens. Get out of there. Get out of there. So my wife and I, for example, will often do this, and this has been a big part of my recovery, is to ask each other these questions. Were you resentful today? Were you selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do you owe an apology? Were you kind and loving towards all? Have you kept something to yourself which should be discussed at once? What could you have done better or differently today? 3 good things that happened today, 3 things that you're grateful for, and 3 affirmations. And then we always give each other an opportunity to talk about that. I think that's been really, really good for my recovery. My marriage is going really well in recovery. And that's really good. I bring that up because right now in the 12-step program, which I am working, chipping away at with this wonderful man, Ron, who's my sponsor, I think I'm on step 8. Am I making amends right now? I think that's step 8. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Yeah, I'm on step 8 and 9. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible. I've been kind of avoiding that. It's been pretty scary at times. But I started with my wife, and I made amends to her, and I made an amends of sorts to one of my sisters. And I'm just praying for the willingness right now and just kind of the humility to get into that potentially uncomfortable situation, knowing that it's what I want, it's the right thing, it's for the right reasons, and that it can lead to more healing and certainly to more established and good recovery. I really want to get to a space in sobriety where I'm helping other people. And I already think I can be of service now, and I think I have. I think I've been a good, consistent person for people in my life now, and I've been able to show them as a friend, as a son, as a husband, as a brother in recovery, that I can be dependent upon. And it really it brings me a lot of joy. It brings me a lot of peace to do that. And I really want to get to a point where I'm sponsoring people. My sponsor in 12 Step told me that working with others was one of the most important things that ever happened to him, as far as bolstering his recovery, as far as keeping him sober, keeping him grounded, and keeping him out of self. And I still fall into self. It's a constant effort to not get lost in my own thoughts, my own wants, my own fears, and things like that. But I'll tell you one thing, guys, and this is the damn truth. I've never cared this much about other people in my entire life, ever. I've never cared this much about other people as I do right now. I think about other people all the time. I check on people all the time. I find myself being kind-hearted in ways that I kind of used to wonder if I was capable of, and I am, and that's really wonderful. I like seeing the kind of... My sponsor! Hey, Ron.
Hey, Noah.
How are you?
I'm good. That banana bread was killer.
Good. Ron, real quick, just so you know, I answered the phone. You're on speaker. It's just me, but I'm recording a video for my YouTube channel just talking about how my sobriety is going, and I was just finished talking about you, and then you called, so you're on speaker on camera, but I won't post it if it makes you uncomfortable. I just thought that was too funny.
Oh, not at all. I'm perfectly fine with whatever you want to do with that. I was hoping that Dustin Allen was going to give you a call. Do you remember Dustin?
Perhaps. Refresh me.
Okay, well, he was in our group, our Tuesday night group. He got a little bit of sobriety, went back out.
Okay.
I'm on my way down to Reading. He said he wants to kill himself. That raises a big red flag. And I said, well, look, I'm traveling right now. You need to get over to St. V's. And then he said, I'm not going to do that. And I said, I'll tell you what, you give Noah a call and talk to Noah. And I hope that was okay.
Of course that's okay.
But I tried to call him just now, and he's not picking up. And I don't even know where he's. I know he's somewhere in Tigard, and I'm just trying to. My next call is going to be to Harrison to find out if there's any way that he can do an intervention as well.
Okay.
Or just talk to him about what he's going through. He's hit a wall. His court date hasn't come up yet. He's got a lot of legal challenges, and he needs somebody like you to talk to.
Well, I will of course talk to him. And would you be willing to send me his number?
I will.
Okay.
I'll forward it to you right now.
Yeah, forward it to me right now, and as soon as I get off the phone with you and finish this video, I'll immediately reach out to him, okay?
Wonderful. Thanks, Noah.
Yeah, it's the least I can do. Thanks, Ron.
Okay, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Dude, wow. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the fresh experience thing. Right now, there's someone like me, an alcoholic like me, who is at his wit's end, right? Whose life pressures have become too much. I don't know what he's going to say, and I'm certainly not going to make that phone call with you guys, but knowing that someone is on the brink of suicide potentially, and I pray to God that's not what happens, because I am someone who's had a lot of experience being in a suicidal space, lots of suicidal thoughts. I've been on a psychiatric hold before at a hospital for very intense and deeply troubling suicidal ideations, but this is what I'm talking about fresh experiences, right? Like that's my sponsor reaching out to me, asking me if I'm willing to be of service and just talk and listen to a struggling alcoholic who's at his wit's end. And having been that struggling alcoholic and remembering so vividly how uncomfortable it was, how sad I was, how perpetually lonely I felt, it reminds me why I want to be sober right now and why this is so important to me and how I can be helpful to the next person, because I don't want to go back to wherever Dustin is at right now. I don't want to ever be there again, turning to drink for comfort, for solution, turning to drink for connection. I mean, drinking, for me, if it was drinking, then I didn't have anything else. It was drinking or everything else. And it's a death sentence for me. It's a literal death sentence for me. And I seem to be one day at a time a lot more aware of that than I ever was before. I think it got so dark, so bleak last time, and I've had to work so hard and sacrifice so much to get sober and stay sober this time that on a day-to-day basis, I'm very mindful of where I come from, what's real for me, what I want, what I don't want, and I have a really good group of people around me holding me accountable and keeping me centered. And with this woman named Kathy committing suicide a few days ago, Dustin, who was in a group that I was a part of, a men's group, not doing well, addiction is alive and well. And today, I don't have to, someone just drove by and smiled. I don't have to be in that space, and I can be in a space of consistency for others. And I can just be okay today. I can just be okay today, and today I am. So I think I'm going to leave it there because I do want to make this phone call. I want to thank you guys for spending time with me and for hearing me and just for being here with me. I really, really appreciate it, and I look forward to making more and more content about recovery, about my life, and about anything else that I enjoy: fitness, food, mental health, TRT, whatever. Just know that this is an important platform for me. It means a lot for me to be able to express myself, and I want to be here for you as much as I can. So please reach out to me in the comments below. Let me know how you are doing. How's recovery going for you? If you happen to be someone who's in a similar space as I am, if you made it this far in the video, I want you to put in the comment section together. I want you to put in the comment section together if you made it nearly a half hour into this video, because it's together with other people, with you, with people in my media world. It's together that I can just take life on life's terms and do the best next thing, the next right indicated action, and not do it alone. I'm so tired of being alone. I don't want that anymore. I don't want you to be alone if you're feeling lonely. Alcohol, I was very lonely as a drinker. No matter who was around, I was very, very lonely, and I'm abundantly connected now, and I don't feel lonely anymore. My priorities are straight, and as a sober man, I'm doing the next right thing pretty well in my biopsychosocial and spiritual life. I want to say more. My train of thought has been interrupted, but I'm glad. I'm going to call Dustin and see if I can just hear him and offer him some thoughts and encourage him to get some support and help him move through this. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to try to get this up today, Friday. We'll see if I'm able to. I'm not going to edit it, so there's a chance. Yeah, and I'm not going to drink today or pick up today. That I can be sure of. I swear there was more I wanted to say, but I just don't remember now. My thoughts have changed. It's a beautiful day, though. And I'm enjoying... I guess I didn't talk about some of the amazing things. I'm going to say really fast. Food tastes as good as it's ever tasted. I'm enjoying little things now more than I've ever enjoyed them. The simplicities of life, the little things in life that I wasn't able to experience any pleasure with most of anything at the end of my drinking unless I was drinking. That's just a fact. And even then, it was like I just wanted to get drunk. So being able to just enjoy food again has been amazing. I have a lot of just genuine interest in talking to people, which before, not so much as a drinker. I like just watching movies again and really enjoying the movie, not needing to be wasted to watch it. I really am able to enjoy good weather now and enjoy walks. All these little things that I no longer could experience pleasure with, even sex and intimacy, they're all really coming back, and I've worked really, really hard. So I want to end it on a super positive note and saying that life sober, right now, working a recovery program, almost 9 months sober, is so much better than it was as a drinker. I can't even tell you. I just can't even tell you that all I was getting at the end of my drinking was a brief moment of relief, a brief moment of peace, artificial peace, a brief moment of feeling good. But everything else was so bleak and so dry and so dark and so disconnected. And right now, for today, I'm just nearly overwhelmed with how much better things are. It's just things are so much better, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Life's not perfect, but boy, do I prefer this life. Boy, do I prefer this sober, recovering, purposeful life. I stay acutely aware of how miserable I was, and I'm constantly reflecting on how happy I am and how content I am even if I'm not happy, and we'll end it with that. I choose contentment over happiness, okay? Contentment for me is being able to look myself in the mirror and be proud of the way that I am, the things that I do, the way that I behave, the person that I'm becoming, regardless of my mood. But my mood does tend to be pretty good. I've only had a couple anxious, sad spirals since I've been sober, and I've managed them pretty well. They've only taken a week or two to resolve. I gotta go. Thank you guys for being here. Keep trying if you're not sober yet. Keep enjoying sobriety and inspiring me if you already are. I love hearing from the people that have so much time. It gives me hope and it gives me peace. And that's all. That's my check-in. That's my life update as pertains to my recovery and my sobriety. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for your time. Adios.